Hello everyone, this is Pappy Wubbish on the Mammy Mushroom streaming channel. Hope you're all doing well tonight. I'm going to work on a little bit of castle design. And this is, oh gosh, this is on Clothier Island. And what we're doing is putting together for the clothiers. This is their new textile mill, and they will be creating textiles from the shipments of wool and bamboo and high-fay. These are all materials that are stripped down and used as textiles for the kingdom. So what they have done too, very creatively I might say, is created a structure out of the same material that they weave into fabrics. They're ingenious, these clothiers. Not just your basic clothiers. So what I'm going to be working on today is to build this up into a somewhat, we'll see, textile mill. I have no idea what it's going to look like. Let's get going. I'll show you what I'm using. Going to be using some of this. It's birch planks, cherry planks, bamboo planks, acacia planks, stripped dark oak wood, stripped mangrove wood, stripped crimson high-fay, and a block of bamboo. So we'll see. I'm not sure where it's going to go, but kind of excited. Now I'm not sure what these are here for. They're floating coal blocks. I think they use power design in here that uses coal, and when the engineers were digging it out, they said, hey, why ship it out and ship it back in? So let's just leave it here. So they just decided to leave these blocks here, and they will eventually be used in the building. Not in the building process, but in the manufacturing of their textiles. Interesting story. I'm going to do a mic check here. Mic check. Mic, you here? Okay. Alright, we're good. So like I said, I have no idea what I'm going to do. But I got some pretty blocks to work with. What I'm trying to do here, created a little bit of a fall down here, like that. I'm going to go up across here first and create kind of a structure. I want this structure to come back and work its way back into a roof back here. So actually I need to bring up these two block, or leave these two block, and bring up those two block and those two block to see if I can get a pitched roof to go through the center here. So I'm going to raise these two up. To that height. Let's see if I can guess that. Ah! So I have to confess here, I know I'm gonna screw up on the controller tonight. We were playing Halo and just a little bit different. So yeah, it's gonna go wacko on you sometimes. But I don't know, it'll be alright. Okay, let's run a beam across here. Now, so what they've decided that they wanted, look at that, dead on, was basically a quilt. They said, we want to represent what we do. There's a little bit of Norwegian blood in them, I think. So Hold on. And we're back. Thank you very much for hanging on. That was actually Mammy's fault. I don't know what was going on there. She thought for sure I turned Norwegian. Okay, so we have this beam coming back here. Now, I'd like to, since we have that, I think I'm going to bring, we'll do it symmetrical, but I don't know what the design is going to look like until I get it to completed. So, yeah, like that made any sense. But, oops, that isn't right, is it? Yes, right. Now will it go up? It'll go up the same, won't it? Yeah. I will be able to move this, remove the one setting block. Whoa! Where are you going? Yeah, that'll be okay. Let's leave it like that. Oh no! What happened? Crap. I could have just gone out one more block and no one would have known the difference down here. I think I still might. Or I could move that post over. But if I move that post over, I gotta move that post over and that beam over. I can make it a double beam. It's a king post. It's what we call a king post. That's got a double beam. We're going with the double beam. It's going to be several double beams, but it's easier to put them in than to take that stair back out and do a different. It's still not going to come out right, is it? Now it's off kilter. Might be easier to just take this one out. Nah, let's leave it like that for now. I'll do this. I'll make this a double rail. So that's what I was saying. All I need is to have this one single block there. If I can figure this out. So this is the Clothier Island textile mill. Oops. Pay attention. And just trying to remember the name. Fabrica Textile Europus. Hopus. Yeah. Don't test me on that one. But we'll get to know it. That's okay. We'll do that. I like that for some reason. Let's see how that works out in the long run. So that's double going across there. That's double. I like that. That looks better. Because I did it. That's why. I mean, that's not because I did it, but it's the way this one's going to have to be. It's done and I'm not changing it. Okay. I think I had just forgotten to put these in back here. Yeah, it's gonna look alright. Now this is gonna have to go up. several taller. So you are part of this design process. I'm going to be taking votes throughout the stream tonight, and that will decide how this is going to be designed. And if I don't hear from anybody, I'll just go ahead and make the decision myself. Or I'll be the deciding vote. Okay, so that goes up there. That's going to be interesting. Let's take this across here too. So kind of just a puzzle is what we're working with. So I'm going to do the same design and take it down there somehow. Will that be crazy? That'll be a big roof. That'll really make a statement. Before I do that, I want to get a little bit more of the design in place, so I don't decide later I don't like the design and I've already got a bunch of decorative stuff in it. That comes from doing this before. So, but I'm hopeful here. There's a good chance it's going to be pretty. I'm going to come down this way. Take this one up here, like we did the other. Oops. This is going to be really pretty, and it's going to have a nice view from here too. We'll have to take advantage of that with a lot of windows. I was thinking earlier I probably wouldn't do a lot of windows in it, but now I think, boy, this is really a pretty view. I mean, yeah, it's just a bunch of colored blocks, right? But no, it's a pretty view. Where did that come out? Well, it's going to be okay. Isn't it? So, I'm going to very soon turn the mic over to Mammy, and she's got something she'd like to talk to you about. It's a little story. It's not really a little story. It's more about energies and what do we have within us. What is there to the energies that we as humans can produce or can take hold of? And just some neat insights we come across in research. I like to look at that. It's going to be pretty. And I'm not going to really go into it too much. She has something for you. A treasure. It's like finding a treasure map. We found a Mammy map. We're going seeking for treasures. And I'm going to continue to build, but so you won't get to hear me babbling too much, which is probably all right. So with that, I'm going to, I think, turn the microphone over to Mammy, and she's going to share with you what's on her mind. Okay, bye for now.
Howdy, folks. How's it going? I gotta do a mic check. Mic check. Mic. Is Mike in the house? No mic. Alright, it's all well and good. So the other day I did building, or I think it might have been remodeling the mansion. And Pappy, we talked about Amanita muscaria, fly agaric, and so I built and Pappy told a little story, a little history story, and that was really fun and popular. So, it's much easier to just watch someone else build and tell the story than it is to try and tell the story and build, and vice versa. It's much easier to build and listen to a story than it is to build and tell a story. Hold on. I got my cat defender. You. My cat defender is a bottle of water. So they train really quick when you do that, because all they do is hear just the sound of that plastic or your hand grabbing the bottle. They know they're gonna get cat shot gut. So it works pretty well, and I'm forced to use it because he does not mind, just with the normal S that most other cats will listen to. So I'm gonna tell a story and Pappy's gonna build. That's the simple of it. I've talked a lot about what some people would consider supernatural, and I've talked about how I'm in search of the science of supernatural. In other words, I do not believe that the supernatural is supernatural. I believe that the supernatural is just simply science that we don't understand yet. And that may come from the fact that I have a science mind, So I approach everything that way, with all those obstacles in mind. And those of you who may know me know that I had an accident when I was younger, and I drowned and I died. And pretty much from the age of 16, I've been studying and researching and looking for answers to questions of what the fuck is going on with me, to put it bluntly. And it all started when I was 16 years old. But I'm not really going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about the science of that. The science and the possibilities that I believe everyone has within their own natural self. It's just something that we don't know how to do, or something that we've strayed away from. I think we used to be able to do all this stuff. I think we used to be able to communicate much better than we do now, obviously, but I mean in ways other than just speech. I think we've lost a lot, and I think over time, with wars and discrimination about what history should be told and what history shouldn't be told, a lot of powerful things have been lost in man's sought after power. And that can only happen if you can take away the power of others. And so I don't really think history does service to anybody other than the one person who wrote it, and for whatever reason. And it's not that history's not real or right. It's just it's written by one person, and it's written with one person's frame of mind, or it's written with one king or one in power's frame of mind. And it's not always the truth. So due diligence. I always say that. Due diligence. Go do your own due diligence. Okay, so because all these things, this stuff happened to me, and then other stuff happened to me after I was revived, I began to do all sorts of research. And I've always been interested in this stuff, but really interested in it in a practical matter. And I went to school. I became a biologist. I studied the human body, the human mind, the human psyche, the human variables, the human invariables. We're born, we live, we die. That happens to everybody. And, in between all that, everybody wants to know why, and including myself. And some people experience life in very different ways than other people. And some people would consider the way that they experience life supernatural, or some people even consider it like demonic. And I want to get away from that. I want to bring science into human capability and show what we can do just as human beings and with our mind. And so I'm going to talk about a few little things that I've seen over time in research and let you make up your own mind while you watch Pappy build this magnificent fabric shop. It's going to be great. You realize how many women are going to be here working on this thing and be happy. It's going to be a great place to work. I got to take a drink. So I'm going to start out with a very basic thing that I'm sure everybody's heard, and that is the power of positive thought. I believe that, and I have always believed, that other than variables that people can't control, such as, I'll give an example would be the firefighters that, went into the towers and then survived, but then end up getting a lot of lung cancer later from all the bad shit that they inhaled. As opposed to somebody who's completely healthy and there's no reason why, but they get the same, they also get cancer and get ill. And I believe that you can make yourself sick. I believe that you can make yourself die even. And, you can look at people who spend their lifetime together and how one pretty much doesn't want to exist anymore after the other goes. It's just what for? And when you lose that will, it's pretty hard to keep that body alive because that body is perishable. That body is... Everybody knows this from the time you're about 4 that you die. And you spend your entire life processing it. Now, go back to or think of the last time maybe that you got really drunk and sick, or maybe you did some horrible drugs and you got sick, or maybe you got the flu and you got sick, or maybe you had a migraine and you got sick. The last time that you just sort of thought, I'd rather be dead than go through this because you're so sick. Well, we only think about death in terms of life, in our good living. We never think about when it gets so bad that we actually need that relief, that pause, that break, that lack of existence in living in such an ill body. Now, I have that experience of dying and coming back, but I also have the experience of living in a body full of pain since pretty much the time I was 2 years old. I had a congenital hip problem, and pretty much starting from the age of 17, I started feeling pretty severe pain. And that was kind of the focus of my entire life until I got my hip replaced years and years later. So I've had a journey that's taken my mind to places that most people might not stagger into accidentally or on purpose. And so when I say the things I say, it's done with full heart, honest integrity, and true experience. And, I'm only telling you the things that I've seen, done, found, experienced, and I want you to take things with the grain of salt that I provide and do your own research. So I'm going to start with the conscious mind and what it can do on a molecular part of the body. So for instance, I've always believed that if you live in stress, or if you live in hate or fear, that you are probably fucking with your molecular structure, because you are destroying cells, because you're raising a lot of chemical things in your body that are really meant for like fight or flight, and they're not supposed to be in there all the time. And after a while, they would start damaging your body. And so I think stress is a big part of why people get cancer. And I think stress is a big part of why people don't exercise or enjoy life or focus on self, is because they are caught up in a stressful environment. And I also think that those powerful people want to keep those lesser powerful people in a state of stress, because we purchase things when we're afraid, and when we live in fear, we are very easily controlled. And up to a point, you can push a person to a point. Once they get past the point of fear, then true change happens, and that's happened over history. So I'm only going to give you an example. I'm not even saying that I think what I'm going to give you an example of is true. And the only reason why I say that is because I have not done the experiments myself. And until I do that, I can only tell you that I'm reading you a story. So I'm going to talk to you about Dr. Masaru Emoto. He's a Japanese scientist, and I think he passed away in 2014. I think he's dead now. And he claimed that human consciousness could affect the molecular structure of water. Now, I spoke about him in a couple of times back, about how people have the ability to change the molecular structure of crystals, the crystals that form when water freezes. And this is the man I'm talking about. So he published several books and articles on his experiments. He used a device called a magnetic resonance analyzer, and he used it to measure the vibrations of water samples. And then he exposed them, people, to different words and pictures and music or prayers, stuff like that. So he put the person next to the water molecules and then had them think positive or negative thoughts, basically. That's it's a lot more complicated than that, but that's the tall and short of it, if you're interested in the science of it. So then he would take these water molecules and he'd freeze them. And then he would go and he'd observe the ice crystals under a microscope. Excuse me. And he showed that the water exposed to positive stimuli formed these, gosh, they're just amazing. Think of a kaleidoscope and think of the symmetry that a kaleidoscope makes. And these ice crystals would form in these most beautiful, symmetrical shapes when people were shown these positive things. And then when they were shown negative stimuli, the there was really violent, dramatic, sharp, angles and edges, and nothing symmetrical, and just shock-looking patterns in these ice crystals. And so, in other words, if you had ugly and distorted thoughts, then your ice crystals formed ugly and distorted patterns. If you had beautiful and positive thoughts, then your ice crystals formed these beautiful symmetrical patterns. And he did these experiments. He published a lot of books. So if you're interested in any of the books, let me see here. I could just probably tell you real quick. Well, one of his most famous was The Hidden Messages in Water. So he also claimed that, like, water from different sources. So you go up and you take mountain stream water, and then you also take polluted river water, and you freeze them. He says they show different crystal patterns, both positive and negative, based on the health of the water. And so he was just this huge, I guess, I don't know if I can call him a benefactor of water, but he really thought that water could tell you secrets. He really thought that water could display almost in like a like when you use biofeedback. And so I encourage you to, if you have a microscope or the availability of one, sit next to some water and try this experiment. I don't have a microscope right now, so I can't try this experiment, but I've been wanting to for a long time. And I also don't have a magnetic resonator. I don't know how to make one either. So, to be fair, his work is very controversial. Okay, a lot of scientists call it pseudoscience, and I absolutely hate that term, because that's that crossover between that real science and supernatural, and when people don't understand something, they make fun of it. And I hate that term pseudoscience, because no science is pseudo to me. Everything is valid to experiment. Everything is valid to interpretation. Everything is valid to observation. And so I don't like pseudo, just like I don't like the term disability. I get snippy. I can feel my head shaking right now when I talk about it. It's my ability, not my disability, you bitch. That's the way I feel when people talk about it. That's what I want to say to people. And by disability, I mean the fact that when I did drown, I took some long-term memory retrieval issues. But like any good disabled person, other things got better. You go blind and suddenly you can smell and taste better and hear better. It's the same thing. I had other things enhance. But that's another story. So what the critics pointed out was that some of his results were hard to replicate, or he didn't let other researchers replicate his experiments. And everybody knows in science, if you're going to have anything legitimized, you have to replicate it. And it has to be replicated by other people, not just you. So, fair trade there. They also said that he was a little bit influenced because the interpretation was subjective, and he did not, in his science, they say he didn't follow the science, the science way. And by that I mean they say he ignored any natural variability to water, the complexity of water crystallization. So by that it could be temperature, where are you at? Are you in the mountains or are you at sea level? That sort of stuff. So I don't know. I haven't looked at his research papers. I can't either defend or deny him, but I can say that I would sure love to see if somebody could replicate this. So I need to take a drink. Yep, he did die. Dr. Emoto died in 2014 at the age of 71. He was a popular speaker and author, and his ideas influenced many people who believed in the power of thoughts and intentions to shape their reality. He also founded the International Water for Life Foundation, a nonprofit organization that aimed to promote the awareness and appreciation of water. Now, I think this guy's ahead of his time because he understands how important water is. Sorry, I hit my mic. I have to readjust. So he understands two of the most important things, I think. One is how important water is, and two, that we shouldn't just negate water as some benign chemical here on Earth. We don't know anything about water other than it's H2O. So as human beings, we're always pretty ignorant and we always just think, okay, that's it. But who knows what his interpretations may hold if people took it serious. And I thought it was very interesting to look at the pictures of that he showed of what people would make when they were happy and positive, and when they were not, when they looked at sad pictures. So let's jump forward with that and think about let's think about you're sitting in your house and you might be arguing and your kids are hearing you argue, and not good things are said. So think about what that molecularly might do to them. Now, likewise, when you're thinking negative thoughts, think of molecularly what you might be doing to your own body. The power of positive thought might not be so stupid after all. So anytime you think something, this is why I say try kindness first. And I'm not talking about try kindness to someone else first. I'm talking about try kindness to yourself first. So there's something to be said about not holding on to anger, forgiving, and I'm not talking about a religious episode here. I'm talking about a scientific basis for not holding on to things that create negative molecular energy. So anytime I think of a negative thought, I always try and think of something that makes me happy, because folks, I want my molecules to be beautiful. I'm conceited. I want them to be pretty. I don't want them to be ugly. And that's probably the depth of it right there. But I did want to talk about water because cancer, well-being, anti-aging, healthier brain, those are all on molecular levels, okay? And all of them you need water to fight, survive, deny, and live with. And I think like 1/3 of the world is without daily usable clean water already. And still we throw stuff into our oceans. So we don't have to become activists and march and throw things on fire. We don't have to get angry and scream and, upset or hurt anybody. You just got to pick up a little 3x5 card and write your congressman or senator and do it regularly. And enough people do it. They don't have any choice but to do something about it. So think about water, think about oceans, think about climate, think about climate control. Think about the climate issues that we're having right now. And also think about all the negativity in the world that's going on, all the horrible thoughts that are going on. If Dr. Emoto is right, and we're surrounded by 75% water, and our thoughts can change the molecular structure of water. Well, hey folks, you're also 75% water. So you're causing this whole array of stuff to go on around you if he's right. He might not be right, but regardless, I think that when you're always under stress, when you're always thinking negative thoughts, you do cause your body harm. And I think that you promote the possibility of cancer from that. And there's scientific base to back that up, but that's really not what I'm talking about right now. We're talking about conscious thought and molecular level. So the next time you think a bad thought, and I'm talking about like women, if you look at another woman and you see that maybe she's prettier than you, or she's skinnier than you, taller than you, or whatever better than you, and then you look at that woman to try to find something that's lesser than you, that's a negative thought. So look at that woman and find what's better than you, and give her due. Be appreciative of it, because you have stuff that's better than she has too. It's not all one-sided anywhere. And so think the positive thing about her. She's beautiful. Or, oh, she's got long legs. Or, oh, she's got such bigger breasts than me. Or thinner waist. Or whatever. Give her due. And don't think negative of her, because God help us all if we can throw that molecular from one to another. Right? And who knows that we can't? We don't know yet. This is all stuff that we're still studying. So, all of this ties together because you do have nothing but water in your body, and you do have nothing but water on the planet that you live on, and you need that water to survive. And so why not keep that water healthy? Why not keep that body that has all that water healthy? So this leads me to try and get those stresses or negative thoughts that you might have out of your mind, out of your body. Clear it from your frame of thought. And this leads me into sitting quiet. And I have a challenge for you all. And it's not easy to do. Most people fail. But it's how you learn to meditate. And it's the first steps. And the number one thing is slow down. You gotta slow down. Okay? You can't sit down, try and meditate after having, the juice bars, triple espresso, and all of that. You have to focus a time, just like you would when you're going to make dinner or take a shower or, wash your child. You have to focus a time for this. So here's my challenge. I challenge you to try and sit quiet and not move a muscle, not a single muscle, not a twitch, not a toe, the only thing that you can do is breathe in and out. And the only way that you'll probably succeed in this, unless you're unless you meditate a lot, is to close your eyes. So you should probably close your eyes when trying this, because otherwise you'll get distracted. So if you feel the need, you find a place to sit, a nice, quiet, no distractions. Sit in a chair. Don't lay down. Sit in a chair. Put your arms at, if you can, like a 45 degree angle where you bend your elbows and let them rest on something. Have your head sitting up straight. So if your eyes were open, you would be looking straight ahead in front of you. Put your feet flat on the ground. And you're not necessarily relaxing your body, but you're not tense. And now I want you to close your eyes and take a big breath in through your nose. And exhale it out through your mouth. And then I want you to try, and I don't want you to try it right now, because you'll fail. Probably. Sorry, but you will. You try this when you're all alone and when there's no external influence. So no sounds, no cell phones, no stereo, no music, no kids, no husband, no wife, no nothing, no job, no nothing. And you only need 2 minutes. You know what? Try it for 30 seconds. And don't count it. Set your mind to just sort of say, I'll know when 30 seconds is up. And you know what? You'll be pretty close. You watch. But don't stress over when 30 seconds is up, and don't set your phone. Just close your eyes. Breathe in through your nose. Exhale through your mouth. And don't move a muscle. Not a muscle. The only thing you can do is breathe in and out, and if you absolutely have to, swallow. But if you can not do that, what I'm trying to get you to do is begin to separate your mind and your body. But most importantly, I want you to begin to focus your mind on your body. So as you're not moving, as you're just sitting there, your eyes are closed. When you achieve 3 minutes, go ahead, open your eyes and start all over. Start with 30 seconds and try it again, but definitely start with your eyes closed. And after about a minute, you'll start to become aware of, because you're really focusing like not moving a toe or finger. It's that white elephant in the room. And then itches begin. Horrible itches. You'd be surprised how your body just resents you doing this. And you gotta fight them off. Don't give in to them. Then before you know it, you'll be wanting to move that toe because you're thinking about not moving that toe. Don't give in. Instead, begin to focus on your shirt touching your skin, or maybe the way that your hair, if you have hair, lays on your head. If you have a beard, feel the hair on your face with your mind, not your hand. Just become aware. Become aware of the pressure that your butt feels sitting on the chair. Become aware of the pressure that your feet feel being on the floor. And stay focused on that. Go up and down your body, and just, what you're trying to do is fool your mind and keep it focused on these things, and also fool your body so it won't move. Try it for 30 seconds. If you achieve that, congratulations. I'm so happy for you. great start, then go for a minute. If you achieve that, go for 2 minutes. If you achieve that, go for 3 minutes. If you achieve that, open your eyes and go all over again until you achieve 3 minutes. And by the time you finish this, you will have a really good ability to control your mind and your body. And I'm not talking about in supernatural ways. I'm just talking about the awareness that will come between those two. Because right now, everything distracts you from being one with your mind, from being one with your body. And your conscious mind has so much more power than you think it does. And by that I mean, I think we shut off a lot of our capabilities and abilities. And I can say these things because I've experienced some of them. I know what our conscious mind can do. I know what our conscious mind is capable of creating, and I know what our conscious mind is capable of destroying. And we are always, always, always our biggest enemy. And so when I say try kindness, that first negative thought that you have about yourself, what's positive about you? You know, let go of that negative one because they tie you up. They make you tight. And think of something. So I'll give an example using myself. I don't like my hands. They're tiny and I feel like they're chubby. And I've always wanted to have long fingernails. And I don't mean like long fingernails. I can grow my nails long. I mean, like my fingernail part seems to be very small because I have small hands. And so it always kind of bothers me. But, so whenever I look at my hands and I'm just like if I look at a ring on my hands and I just feel that disgust about myself, which is so stupid and I know it is, I think, what do I like about myself? Well, I like my feet. And here's why I like my feet. Because they're cute and little like my fingers. And they're stubby and tiny like my fingers. And like everybody has a middle toe that goes past their what's that thumb toe called? No, the big toe. What's that called? Your big toe. The toe next to your big toe, almost everybody's toe is bigger than that. It goes past it. But not mine. I have model feet and model ankles. So like, really thin ankles, really pretty feet, really pretty ankles. So hey, okay, it's a trade-off. So I try to remind myself that it's not all bad. It's all good, right? So I try to keep my molecules pretty by doing that. That's what I mean by positive thought. I'm not talking about live in some unrealistic manner all day long, giddily. I'm talking about shed what might be hurting you molecularly. Let's get selfish. This isn't a religious thing. This is a selfish thing. Be kind to yourself and be kind to others. And when you are kind to yourself, when you do look at the things you like, you feel this little bit of elation, this lighter stuff. You feel happy. You feel not quite so heavy or burdened. And there has to be some science there. There has to be some basis. And Dr. Emoto's research is heavily laden with this theory. So that's why I thought I would bring it to you. So sit quiet, meditate, and then once you reach 3 minutes, just keep doing it and keep doing it. And then if you feel so inclined, begin to hum or chant or try and get your body resonating in a lower frequency. And it doesn't have to be anything spiritual or enlightening or anything like that. We're not going that way. Keep that in mind. We're not going that way. We're going science. If you can resonate your body and get all your molecules jumping around and maybe get them harmonizing, can't that be good for you? If you can do it to water, if you can affect that your water that way, then you can probably affect molecularly the water within your body. So be kind to yourself. Try kindness first. Try it to yourself and everyone. Don't hit. Okay. That being said, and I keep threatening it, I am going to have a meditation session soon. I'm just trying to find the right time and environment. And in order to give a meditation session, I have to be in the right headspace as well. And things have been busy here. You know, we're busy right now. So, but it'll come soon, and I'll also put it up on my YouTube channel so that maybe if you needed to use it repeatedly, it would be there for you to guide you through some steps. And what I'm wanting you to practice, whether you practice it with me or anyone else, is, well, I'm hoping that you'll begin to have out-of-body experiences. I'm hoping that you'll begin to have different technical, not pseudoscience, but real legitimate experiences that you can then formulate your own opinion on. And who knows what you might else be able to do once you get your mind and body in sync with each other. And I'd love to hear, what you can do. So, all that being said, I'm going to read you I've talked about Edgar Cayce a lot because everybody called him a prophet, and I'm gonna have to disagree with that one. First of all, I don't really think there are prophets. And I don't think he was a prophet, but I do think that he was special. And I'm going to read you a chapter out of the book, There Is a River. This is by Thomas Segru. I've spoken about this book before. And I've spoken about the abilities of Edgar Cayce. And if anyone is unfamiliar, Edgar Cayce lived in the early 1900s. And he was very lowly educated. He could put himself to sleep, literally like put himself to sleep on a couch and give diagnosis for people who were hundreds or thousands of miles away, people he'd never even met, and diagnose them. And he did over 30,000 cases once he kind of figured out his abilities. It took him a long time to figure out what he could do. And once he finally did, he did 30,000 cases with 99% accuracy. This was someone who I don't even think has an 8th grade education. So, you would think that somebody would have said, "Hey, Edgar, how do you do this?" And they have. But the only thing that he's ever responded in was, we can access a collective subconscious. Okay? So the whole time that I'm doing this, reading this book and doing research on him, I'm like, why does not someone ask him some of these questions? But he's an extremely religious man, and he half believes that God gave him this gift, and he half believes the devil gave it to him. So he's like 46, 47 years old. He's gone through a bunch of people who've wanted to invest in him and help him. And they've all been very wealthy, and they've all gone broke. for some weird reason or another. Okay, so he set up shop by himself back in his hometown. He did photography because he had lost his voice and he needed a business in which he didn't have to speak. So he's gone through all these people. He's trying to help people. He really just wants to help people. He refuses to make money, but he's finally come to the determination that if nobody's going to be able to help him, he's going to have to do it on his own. So he takes a part of his photography studio and he sets it up as a place to give readings. And then he sends out like a notice in the newspaper. It says, okay, I'm here. I'm doing my own readings now. So that's where we're at. And now I'm just going to read to you folks this chapter and let you make up your mind about what's going on. Okay? Now it was October. Hugh Lynn, that's his son, was a junior in high school. Edgar Evans, that's his youngest son, who called himself Ekin because as a baby he couldn't pronounce his real name, was in kindergarten. Peace and security had finally settled over the family. One day, a man named Arthur Lammers walked into the studio. He was a wealthy printer from Dayton, Ohio. A short, powerful man with broad shoulders, brown hair, and blue eyes. Edgar had met him casually while on a trip to Dayton once. He had received one of the announcements that Edgar had sent out and had come to get a reading. They were not to be for sick people, however. He was quite well himself, and so were the members of his family. He had other interests: philosophy, metaphysics, esoteric astrology, psychic phenomena. He asked questions Edgar did not understand. What were the mechanics of the subconscious? What was the difference between spirit and soul? What were the reasons for personality or talent? He mentioned things such as the Kabbalah, the mysteries of religion of Egypt and Greece, the medieval alchemists, the mystics of Tibet, yoga, Madame Blavatsky. That's one I'm going to have to do some research on. I don't know who she is, but I'm going to look her up. And Theosophy, the Great White Brotherhood, the etheric world. Edgar was simply dazed. You ought to find out about these things, Lammers said. If there is any way of finding it out, it's through you. The world is full of notions about its own beginning, its meaning, and its end. There are hundreds of philosophic and thousands of theological systems. Which are right? Which are wrong? Which is the closest to the truth? What is the real nature of the soul, and what is the purpose of this experience on earth? Where do we go from here? What for? Where did we come from? What were we doing before we came here? Haven't you asked any of these questions? No, Edgar said. Now, he's 47 at this age. Mind you, he's extremely religious. So he lives inside a box. And this is why I think creation is so important, because it takes your head out of the box. And you can do it with meditation too, but creation is so much more fun. Art is much easier than meditation. No, Edgar said. He couldn't think of another way to say he didn't dare tell the truth, that he had always considered such an idea sacrilegious, because God was revealed in the Bible, and to suppose that he could answer the mysteries of the universe would be an open invitation for Satan to speak through him. That was what he had felt, but now, as he heard Lammers speak, he knew the feeling had passed. He had not been aware of its passing, but it was gone. As Lammers tossed questions, he felt something spring up within himself, something which said, "This is the way to get the answer." "I can only stay here a few days," Lammers went on, "but if you will come to Dayton as my guest, I'll take a series of readings on these subjects and see what we get. Philosophy and metaphysics have been my hobbies. but they only lead me to confusion because there is no definite authority on the details. They all agree on the one God, the need of morality, the efficacy of prayer, the brotherhood of spirit, but beyond that, it's a sea of guesses. If these readings of yours are accurate, it means your subconscious mind can be reached and that these occult and mystic theories are correct, that subconscious mind ought to be aware of its own identity and ought to be able to tell us as much of ourselves as the world as we want to know, or at least as much as we can understand. Edgar could feel his own thoughts being expressed in Lammer's words. He had returned to Selma, that's where he lives now, that's the town he lives in, convinced of his mission. It had taken him 46 years to reach this decision. Now, mind you, he started this power at 14. He started figuring out he had something special. But he was blocked by religion. It took this long for him to take that leap. I gotta take a drink. It had taken him 46 years to reach this decision. Now he wanted to know why he had the mission. He wanted to know why it was to be fulfilled. Why not finish up your work here in the next few days, Lammer said, and come up to Dayton with me for a few weeks. You'll be a wiser and richer man when you return, I'm sure. I'll go, Edgar said. I'll finish up the appointments for readings I have tomorrow and the next day. They're all local people. Good, Lammer said. I want to start at the bottom with this thing, the most enduring and popular belief about the universe, of which we are all skeptical, is astrology. First, we'll ask the readings for a horoscope and see what happens. They're fakes, aren't they? Edgar said. He was sure now that he wanted to find out about everything by the way of the readings. It was just the assurance he needed. Remember what I said before? He's kind of easy to manipulate, and he's gone into business with people before, and they all promise him things, and they all end up failing him. And he moves to these places, too. He's so silly. Anyways, continuing on. Pappy's gonna look at we're not sure, we might have left our dog outside. He's gonna go take a peek, so he's gonna stop building for a second. Nope, she's laying on our bed. I'll go, Edgar said. So, good, Lammer said. I want to start at the bottom. Astrology. Okay. Start with horoscopes. They're fakes, aren't they? Edgar said. He was sure now that he wanted to find out about everything by the way of the readings. It was just the assurance he needed. It would join together, at least in his mind, the two great conflicting forces in his life, the Bible and the readings. Out of the truth of one had come the power of the other. He was definitely certain of that. It would be a comfort to have it proved. Gertrude, that's his wife, was dubious and saw him pack his bags. But she liked Lammers, and the subject of the reading was to be interested her. Write me all about what they say, she said when Edgar kissed her goodbye. In Dayton, he registered at the Phillips Hotel, an old, homey place with big rooms and lots of red plush on the furnishings. In the morning, Lammers brought his secretary, Lyndon Schroyer, and a stenographer to the readings. Now see, this is what's so nice about this, is all of this stuff is documented. This is probably like around the 1926 or something like that, 27, that all this is going on. Back when you actually trusted people and got up and went to their house and stayed with them for 3 weeks. Complete strangers. So he brings his secretary, Lyndon Schroyer, and a stenographer to the readings. Schroyer, a small, thin man with black hair, eyes, and mustache, seemed ill at ease. "What's he going to do?" he kept asking Lammers. Edgar laughed. "What I'm going to do shouldn't bother you," he said. "It's what I'm going to say that has me worried." "I'm going to ask him for my horoscope," Lammers explained. Lammers conducted the reading, and then when Edgar woke up, he spoke to him gravely. Now keep in mind that when he puts himself to sleep, his conscious mind has no idea what his subconscious mind is saying. So he either has to read the stenographer or people tell him. He truly does not know. So most of the time during readings, he has someone there that he trusts, like his dad or his business partner, or later his wife does it. But right now it's Lammers, this guy who just came to him and said, "I want my horoscope read." So Lammers conducted the reading, and when Edgar woke up, he spoke to him gravely. "There is something wrong with our notion of astrology, apparently," he said. "It doesn't affect us as we think it does." Edgar smiled. Whew, he was relieved. "We leave out a factor that is very important," Lammers went on. "What's that?" Edgar said. "Reincarnation." Edgar stared. Schroyer smiled at him. Lammers began to laugh. "You thought astrology was a fake," he said, "and now you hand out a story that's a dozen times more fantastic than the rule of the stars. You say I've lived before on this earth. You say this is my third appearance in this sphere, and that I will still have some of the inclinations from my last life when I was a monk." Mechanically, Edgar put on his tie and fastened his cufflinks and tied his shoelaces. This is what when he gets ready to do the readings, he always takes these things off. "Is that the stuff they believe in India?" he asked. "Is that reincarnation?" Lammers nodded. "You say," he went on, "that the solar system is a cycle of experiences for the soul. It has 8 dimensions corresponding to the planets. They represent focal points for the dimensions, or environments in which the dimensions can express and materialize themselves. Although materialization of each dimension is different. This is the 3rd dimension, and it is a sort of laboratory for the whole system, because only here is free will completely dominant. On the other planes, or dimensions, some measure of control is kept over the soul to see that it learns the proper lessons. And the control is usually by the soul itself, if it has evolved sufficiently, because once the body of this dimension has been left, and the consciousness of this life has been absorbed into the subconscious, the veil between the two is lifted. The subconscious, you see, is the record of all the lives of the soul, in this system and in the other systems, out among the stars. It is the record we think of as being kept by the recording angel. It is the story of what we do with our spirit, the portion of God that is given to us for life, with the gift of individuality or separate existence from God. Our problem is to perfect our individuality, and then we return to God. Our spirit and soul or individuality are then joined to Him. Edgar shook his head. "I said all that?" he asked in a low tone. Lammers nodded. Schroyer smiled. He was friendlier now. He seemed to realize that Edgar was truly suffering. "So you see," Lammers said, "our astrological influences from the planets or dimensions we have inhabited will be good or bad, weak or strong, according to the experiences we have had there and how we handled our problems. For example, we react to the earth according to the manner in which we have handled the problems of earth. in our other lives: brotherly love, material possessions, sex, food, and drink. Sometimes we are working on an earth problem to the exclusion of any influence from the stars or planets at all. The stars represent soul patterns, not experiences. The 12 signs of the zodiac are 12 patterns from which the soul chooses when coming into the earth plane. They are like races, patterns of temperament, personality, etc. Edgar interrupted him. "Oh, I couldn't have said all that in one reading," he said. He looked toward the stenographer for confirmation. She was sitting with a bemused, dreamy smile on her face. "No," Lemmer said, "but you confirmed it, you see. I've been studying metaphysics for years, and I was able by a few questions and by acts that you gave to check what is right and what is wrong with a whole lot of stuff that I've been reading. The important thing is that the basic system which runs through all the mystery religions, whether they come from Tibet or the pyramids of Egypt, is backed up by you. It's actually the right system." Edgar sucked slowly on his cigarette. Lammers was excited. He was like a man who had hunted treasure for years, following old maps and charts, and finally found it. Now, before I go on, keep in mind that the way that Edgar claims that he accesses all his diagnoses is that he can, when he goes to sleep, have his subconscious access all the other subconscious record that's ever existed. So therefore, all the way from back to the beginning of man to modern medicine. And some of his remedies are just crazy. I mean, crazy. You wouldn't expect them to work, and they do. And that's because he's accessing a conglomerate of all, this is what he claims, a conglomerate of all the subconscious minds ever lived, ever died, that are apparently within these realms. Now, that does sound to me like something like the Akashic Records, which is supposed to be a place that you can, like Einstein, Tesla, Da Vinci, and the iPhone. Who invented the iPhone? Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs, he was doing mushrooms when he invented the iPhone, by the way, in case you didn't know that. Laying on his back looking at the sky and doing some thought process. Anyways, these people, they're so fantastic with their knowledge that maybe they had figured out some way to access the Akashic Records. And according to Edgar Casey and the way he explains it, your past lives resonate in this one. And even when they ask why Edgar, like why not a doctor or somebody who's educated, why this uneducated man who can hardly even pronounce these medical terms when he's awake do this when he's asleep? And they said because he was, his mind is susceptible to suggestion and able to access that way. And it has to do with, they say, his previous life where he died on some battlefield and was in agony for days and was able to separate his mind from his body. Now, the only way that you can do that, is pretty much the way, sit still and do those exercises. Just see what happens to you. You never know. Continuing on. He's talking about how Lammers is excited, like he's found old maps and charts and he's finally found his treasure. It's hermetic. It's Pythagorean. It's Jewish. It's Christian, he said. The Egyptians put it in the pyramids, on the emerald tablets of Hermes, and on the Bembine table of Isis. Pythagoras put it in numbers, and in the theorem that the square on the hypotenuse of a right triangle is equal to the sum of the square of the other two sides. Jesus put it in the Sermon on the Mount, and in the remainder of the 5th chapter of Matthew. I never heard any of those things except for the Sermon on the Mount and the rest of the 5th of Matthew, Edgar said. The 5th chapter of Matthew is the constitution of Christianity, Lammers said. The Sermon on the Mount is its declaration of independence. Jesus said he came to fulfill the law, not to abolish it. The Mosaic law had to do with external acts. It did not consider internal morality, except as it was reflected in physical acts. Of course, the law of internal morality existed all this time, but it was the property of the priests, the initiates. That would be true today too, were it not for the fact that the priests seem to have lost the key. They don't understand their symbology much better than does the average parishioner. There seems to have been too much simplification over time. The mission of Christ was to reveal this inner morality to all people, and then to give them an example in himself of the fulfillment of that pattern. He is the way, he is the truth, he is the life. Sometime, somewhere, here or on some other planet, or out among the stars, where worlds are as common as grains of sand on the beach, each of us must reflect the perfection of Christ. Then we can return to God and be one with him. Perfect, as Christ himself said. Now this is Lammers talking, you guys, not Edgar. Through his hair, as our Father is in heaven. Edgar was running his hand through his hair. Stroyer was staring out the window, and the stenographer sat entranced, still smiling. A body is only an objectification of soul pattern, Lammers went on. That's why each one is different in build, in physiognomy. Physio is an old word, an old term, I don't recognize it. In basic health, it is a reflection of the individuality of the soul, which gives it life. The record of this particular experience, the conscious mind, that the personality, it's a day in the course of a life compared to the actual history of the soul. He spoke to the stenographer. Read back the last few paragraphs of the reading, he asked. She picked up her notebook and translated the shorthand. Now this is Edgar speaking, but it's Edgar speaking while he's asleep, and he speaks in third term, like we. Third person. I gotta take a drink. Hold on. So this is the last few paragraphs of the reading they just had. In this, we see the plan of development of those individuals set upon this plane, meaning the ability, as would be manifested from the physical, to enter again into the presence of the Creator. He doesn't use the word God, he uses the word Creator, and become a full part of that creation. Insofar as this entity is concerned, this is the third appearance. Now he's speaking in terms of Lammers. Insofar as this entity is concerned, this is the third appearance on this plane, and before this one, as a monk, we see glimpses in the life of the entity now, and were shown in the monk for his mode of living. The body is only the vehicle ever of that spirit and soul that waft through all time and ever remain the same. So now it's back to Lammers. You see, Lammers said, it opens up the door. It's like finding the secret chamber of the Great Pyramid. It's like Philosopher's Stone. It's sesame. Come on, let's get some lunch so you'll be ready to give another one this afternoon. So they go to lunch and they have a conversation. And they talk about Nostradamus and Osiris and the fact that the priests have lost the keys of like Freemasonry and Hindu Samadhi and Saracen mathematics, tarot cards. He goes through all of them. I mean, he's just into it all. So I'm going to read you their conversation because I think it's important, even though it's not a reading. Because I think this is where he tells him that this life, your conscious mind, your subconscious records everything, and your conscious mind records and experiences what is going on right now. And when you die, that becomes a record in your subconscious. And when you come back again, then all of that is in your subconscious, and now you have a brand new conscious record starting of the current existence in this plane. But it doesn't mean that your conscious personality is not affected by what your subconscious just absorbed. And that's what he's talking about. Okay? You see, Lammers said, during the meal, Lammers continued his explanations. He spoke about the medieval Rosicrucians, the oracles of Nostradamus, the Enneads of Plotinus, the mysteries of Eleusis, Bacchus, Mithras, and Osiris. He told them of lost keys of Freemasonry, the Hindu Samadhi, the Saracen mathematics, tarot cards, the precession of the equinoxes, and the connection with the worship of the bull and the ram, the meaning of the scarab, and the tetragrammaton of the Jews. Every 2,160 years, a different sign of the zodiac is in the position dominating Earth, he said. It goes backward and is therefore called a precession. During the heyday of Egypt, the sign of Taurus the bull was the commanding position. So the people worshipped the bull, but Taurus ruled only by reflection, as it were. It was the overt sign. The sun, actually in Scorpio, was shining across into Taurus. So Scorpio, the real sign, the spiritual guide of the earth, appeared on the foreheads and staffs of the priest of the time. Edgar shook his head. I haven't the slightest idea what you're talking about, he confessed. What interests me is this. You say that I agree with all this stuff in my readings. Does that imply that my subconscious mind understands it? Or was I just being a stooge for your suggestions? Lammers laughed. You not only understand it, he said, you explained several things that heretofore had no explanation so far as I know. Edgar nodded. Good, he said. Now answer me this. Is all this stuff which you've been telling about, and with which my subconscious mind apparently agrees, in conformity with the best ethics of religion and society? Is it Christian or is it pagan? One at a time, Lammers said. First, it not only agrees with the best ethics of religion and society, it is the source of them. It is the ancient wisdom which inspired them, and gave them to the world with the simple explanation which most men could understand. Christ, God, Him, believed the people were ready for a higher conception of their living code, so whoever, Christ, God, Him, He, it, gave it to them. I put that in, I'm paraphrasing. He spoke to the people in parables. The symbology was simple, but the morality he taught was a higher one than they had been following. It was the next step in the revelation of truth. Edgar started to ask a question, then stopped. He paled noticeably. Lammers took his arm and smiled reassuringly. I know what you're thinking, he said. You wonder if I'm going to say this is the next step in revealing truth. Don't worry, I wouldn't be that audacious, and this particular truth has been in existence and known to a minority of the people ever since man began inhabiting the earth. He brought it with him, you see, in such phenomena as clairvoyance have always been available for aid in checking the mistakes that occur from generation to generation, as the wisdom is handed down in writing, by word of mouth. Both are treacherous in the hands of amateurs. No, it has been put down many times before and taught to initiates over and over again. What I have not been able to find out is just how much of it Christ taught to the more intelligent of his disciples, or to all of them for that matter, because its understanding requires native ability rather than training. And how much he left unsaid, obviously he knew it all. I've often suspected it's all in the latter part of the Gospel of St. John, in the chapters covering the discourses at the Last Supper. At any rate, after the church ceased to be an extension or sect of Jewry, and that's Jewry, and began to rise in power in the Roman Empire, its leaders made a decision to change it from an idealistic philosophy appealing to intellectuals to a more broad and practical religion for the common man. From that time on, it made great strides, but over the course of the centuries, the original metaphysical structure has been either lost or permanently submerged. Edgar still was worried, and this is what the Native Americans talk about, that they had it but lost it. If the leaders of the church thought it was best to keep these things secret, then why should we expose them? He asked. Lammers did not answer immediately. His brow pressed vertical wrinkles into place above his nose. His round face was solemn. I don't know whether it was meant to be exposed now or whether it was meant to be exposed 1900 years ago, he said finally. It seems always to have been available for those who sought it. Maybe that's just the answer. First we'll get it from the readings, and then we'll find out what to do with it. They returned to the room to prepare for the afternoon reading. The stenographer was already there. She had typed the morning reading out, and Edgar was looking it over. He could not find all the things that Lammert had mentioned, but there was enough to indicate the broad outlines of a theory, and to prove that his subconscious mind was as much at home with Lammer's metaphysical vocabulary as it was with the language of anatomy and medicine. So now he's like, okay, now he's a rocket scientist as well when he's asleep. When he woke from the reading, Lammers was nodding his head. Just as I thought, he said. Just as I thought, only better and simpler. Now, it's like this. Okay, now pay attention. Pay attention. This is the important part. The conscious mind is the record of this life. Now, this is what Edgar said during his reading. This isn't Lammers now interpreting it. This is how Edgar explains. conscious and subconscious. Now it's like this. The conscious mind is the record of this life, just as an emotion is the experience of a single moment. So the conscious mind is the record of a single life. The conscious mind is located in the pituitary gland. That, at least, is its focal point. The gland has a purely physical function as well. Now, here's where I have a little problem because you can't really prove this. So, the thoughts go from the conscious to the imaginative or introspective mind, which is seated in the pineal gland. There, the thoughts are compared with all that has gone on before that is in any way related to them. And when this is done, the thoughts, properly conditioned and judged, pass on to the subconscious or soul mind, which is seated with its spirit just above the heart. There the thoughts are kept as a record, and as they are constructive, they quicken the spirit and lower the barrier between the soul and the pure essence of life. As they are destructive, they are rejected, but keep as a record. As they are repeated, they build up the barrier between the soul and the spirit and dim the radiance of the life essence that shines through a subconscious to the imaginative, and then by refraction or by hunch, intuition, or yearning come into consciousness. So it's kind of explaining trust your gut. You know, a lot of people talk about trust your gut, trust your intuition. Well, that's subjective, of course, but it could very possibly be your conscious mind dipping into your subconscious, looking for a record, looking for analyzation, looking for what to do. There's, proof of fight or flight, run or die. I mean, it all happens within a second, and those happen between the two, between conscious and subconscious, fight or flight. Okay. So Edgar looked at Schroyer. The quiet, dark little man could contain himself no longer. He began to laugh. Edgar joined him, and then Lammers, after a moment, began to chuckle. When they had settled down, Lammers looked at Edgar and said, "It sounds medieval, or worse, but it's not. Modern science throws a lot of sense into what used to be thought of as nonsense. For a long time we were taught that only the tangible existed. Now we know that the most important forces in our lives are invisible. Electricity, for instance, and the waves that make wireless possible. Thought has always been invisible," Schroyer put it. "And pretty much discouraged," Lammer said. "It isn't supposed to be good for the average man. It gets him into trouble." So see, once again, they just want you to work. Don't think about anything. Just work. Work, work, work. Don't process anything. "But look here," he turned to Edgar. "You've got to give your time to this thing, man. You're as out of place in a photographer's studio as Joseph was in Pharaoh's prison. Bring your family up to Dayton and let me back in this thing in the way that it should be backed. No oil wells, no lectures, no readings, just this type for enlightenment and physical readings for those who need them. We ought to build up an organization which will take care of the sick, whether they be ill in body, mind, or spirit. Then you'll really be doing something." "That's what I'd like," Edgar said. "It's always been my dream, but I've never been able to reconcile it with the fact that my conscious mind, as you put it, I'm uneducated. Shucks," he added, "it's worse than that. I'm ignorant." "I was about to explain that," Lammer said, "but my language threw you off. I was getting too technical. Remember what I said about the subconscious mind being the storehouse of all our experiences and thoughts for all our lives here or elsewhere? Well, to the degree that these experiences and thoughts have been in the right direction, a man is civilized, cultured, humane, and so forth. His past record shines through his conscious mind and present body, making the pattern of the body and the character of the person. Nothing is forgotten or lost by the subconscious. Therefore, if you, in one or more of your past lives, in your studies, in other dimensions, in other worlds, learn this wisdom which comes through to you, it is not at all to be wondered at that you still possess it. The fact that your subconscious mind is articulate, this clairvoyance, that is this strange thing, but once the subconscious is reached, it is not surprising that it is full of wisdom. That is, providing first of all that you are allied with the forces of good. That's where the inevitability of morality comes in. As a man thinketh in his heart, so he is, Jesus said. You couldn't use this force for evil purposes without one or two things happening. The power would be lost to you, or the information would cease to be right. In one case, your soul would remain uncorrupted by retreating within itself. In the other case, it would be corrupted by partaking of your conscious venality. Edgar made no comment. He was smoking quietly, staring at the floor. Tomorrow, Lammers went on, we'll take a reading on you and ask why you were given the power and for what purpose it is to be used, and then you can make your decision. Yeah, I'd like to get that reading, Edgar said, but I think I better make my decision before we take that reading. So I'm going to stop there because it's it goes into a lot more detail about what he says and everything, and if you're interested, pick up the book and go ahead and read it. It's a really good book. But it goes along the thought of the power of positive thought creating the manifesting in the person and the personality that you are. So it doesn't mean you have to run around and be like, oh, happy all the time, and you can't ever have, disappointments or not know if it's going to be good or not know if you're going to be right, or fear of failure. Those things are not important. What's important is that you experience and try things and enjoy your life and try and make it as peaceful as possible. That's my theory, at least. And hey, it kind of goes along with Edgar Cayce, so I was kind of happy about that. All right, enough reading. I'm going to give it back to Pappy for the last 15 minutes, and he can take you on a tour of this beautiful thing that he's created. I hope you've enjoyed your evening. Happy Friday, happy weekend. Don't forget Monday, Plow Yard, 8 p.m. Pacific time. Wow, that is beautiful. And go to sleep with a happy thought and wake up with a happy thought about yourself. And then start having happy thoughts about other people. And remember, try the meditation and see if you feel better. Okay. Bye.
Hello. I'm back. Well, I hope you enjoyed listening to Mammy. I sure did. Very interesting. Causes introspection. I like that. I like that. So, yeah, I don't know. We kind of got, looks like a big bug. Kind of. See? It does look like a bug. Yeah, it's fun. It's fun. It's uh so we'll see where it goes from here. It's just gonna keep getting more crazy. So yeah, I think this is where the mind went listening to that story. What? No, it was very, very interesting to listen to. It's this is an experiment in and of itself to see where the mind goes when it picks up on thoughts that are deeper than usual. Instead of stack block, must stack block. To give it a little bit of creativity and very enjoyable. So I'm going to try to follow my pattern that's on the other side here, but this is it's not going to be much of a tour here. I went with some this stuff here. I don't know if that was a good idea. It looks kind of Christmassy. Yeah, maybe shopping center. It might be a shopping center. I don't know. Maybe leave it for now. I'm just trying to get the roof done. Oh, you silly, silly llama. Let go of him. Poor llama. Poor llama. I don't know what to do for you. Go up and kill the traitor. I don't know if they don't think that's right. Here. Why doesn't he go down here? That's too bad. Okay. So I am using just this one here. Bamboo planks. Let's go around it with bamboo planks. And on the very bottom of this one, I did bamboo on the outside and then go up with the dark oak. So yeah, I'm gonna certainly take that into consideration through my day. And I try to. I try not to be a negative Ned, negative Nancy. But sometimes it gets you. Sometimes it gets the best of you. This one I had. Oh, it doesn't do any good to think negative thoughts. I won't even say that in jest. It absolutely doesn't. It creates a wall in your day. I don't know if I did that. Yeah, it's too high. No, it's single high, isn't it? Okay, so just come in from there with the bamboo. Yeah, it creates just a barrier. You can't get past it. You gotta get through it somehow. I don't know about you, but I don't need any more barriers in my day. I got a lot of shit going on. I gotta get it done. As do most of us. I think that needs to come clear out to here. Actually needs to be there. No, I don't think that's right. This is a funky corner. I'll leave it like that for now. It's gonna stack funny here though. It'll all be fixed when you get back. I don't know whatever happened to Babby Bear's place last week. I don't even know where it's at, if it's done, if the decorator's been there. I don't know, I think she's moved in. Poor gal. Okay, so we did that. Let's go down with a dark oak block. Now see, I went down with 2 there. Why? I don't know. Okay. Maybe that's why I did it. Because of this. I bet it is. I'm gonna do the same. Apparently it doesn't matter. This has to be out here. Oh, that's why. I had the little kicker block on it and I never took it back off before I came in with the glass. I like the look of it though, and it'll be consistent if I do it here too. Consistency. That's what we look for. No. I'm not a real consistent person. But I do things over and over and over. I don't know if that's the same. I don't think so. Backwards, upside down, twisted angle. Ugh, the worst. So, yeah, that's what the rest of this is going to look like too. It's going to be just a lot of geometric designs, and I think I need to go up 2 blocks there. I think that would look better. Yeah. So if I go up here, there, that helps. Yeah. Just fill it with some glass. I know. Poor guy, look at him, just dragging him around underneath. Ah, that must be one of these reindeer that we were talking about yesterday. He's been eating and haven't eaten muscaria. Yeah, it's all Goodman. So I think, yeah, I don't think I'm gonna go very much farther. Well, that's not right. That means I have to go down 3 blocks in order to catch that, doesn't it? In order to go underneath it. That'll be okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's a little bit different doing it this way. I don't think that's right. Then I can't get out. Nope. That second one was supposed to go right here. Here. And here. Man, I got enough glass block. I don't know. It's a good thing we ordered plenty. I don't think we were counting on going through so much. In the breakdown of the design here. Who am I trying to fool? That kind of talk. We ordered plenty because we knew what was going to be here. Alright. That looks okay. I like that look right there. Where it's tucked in underneath there. Better than that look right there. looks more solid to me. Looks more engineered than this. This looks thrown together like fourth graders. No, it doesn't. It looks okay. Okay, so this is what we have. It is wild and crazy. It does remind me of the Wild and Crazy Guys. It's pretty consistent. I like it. So we'll probably do the same thing back here on these two. Maybe keep it a little more simple. Either that or I'm going to have to wacky this up a little bit and put some design in there. Even looking down on it, it's pretty. Look at that. Those just look like squares, don't they? But are they? No. No, they're not squares at all, are they? That is really cool. Let's go look at them one more time. This is a pretty setting for this. It'll be the talk of the town. Yeah, it's pretty neat. So, need to do something probably here too, similar. It'll kind of tie that in around the outside edge too. And the back, this is going to be, where's the sunset here? We're there? That way? So this is, we're looking east here. This is going to be the southern exposure. I think this is going to have skylights in it here. And on the side over here as well. I didn't put any lights on these two. Maybe instead of that prismarine, I should run around there with a glass block. Look at that. Did you notice that mistake? See at the center how many blocks there are? There's not as many over here. Somehow. I don't know. This is wider. This is where I did that double up, isn't it? So I think this side was narrower. It is very pretty. I like that color combination. Right here, this color combination. That sponge, the dark oak, and then the birch plank, and then the dark oak. It was really pretty together. Sponge and stripped dark oak. It's pretty. Yeah, so over here, I don't know, maybe just some, maybe I'll just use the yellow glass in there instead of building actual skylights. Gonna need some glass up here though, aren't we? Maybe a little bit of glass design up here. What if we did that? Oops, darn it. Fix it. Fix. We get carried away and forget what it looked like. Let's leave a single block on the outside, and we leave a double block there. Oops, single block. Okay, so I'll go down here. Alright. Whack, whack. Quack, quack. Oops, darn it. Well, I hope we're able to stream next week. We've got a storm coming in. We're going to be braving some pretty good winds tonight. I can hear them howling now. It's always fun. When you prepare for it, it's not bad. I really feel bad for people that can't prepare for it, though. All they can do is tie their tents down tighter. Ugh, that's a terrible thought. All right. Well, on that thought, think positive. See what you can do to help yourself and somebody else. I like that. That's a good design. I might do something a little different in the center there, though. Maybe a little dark oak or something. I don't know. Just kind of goes all vanilla somehow, doesn't it? Let's throw a little bit of this in there and see what it looks like. Yeah. I don't know. We'll see. We'll do the other side the same and see how it looks when it all comes together. All right. Well, with that, half done castle. And we'll be working on this again together. Count on it. Thank you for your help. Let's get rid of these while I'm back here. I didn't take any votes, did I? Well, I went ahead and just took control. If you didn't get to vote, it's not my fault. This is an interesting little room. This is going to have some lights, and maybe this is where they do the custom embroidery. We'll put some really pretty lights up here. The embroiderers can sit and look out at their view of the hill. Maybe we'll put a mural back here of someone doing embroidery. An ode to embroidery. I don't know. Well, it's coming along. I had fun. That's what's important. Okay. Well, once again, thanks for coming, and be sure to come in next week, and be safe, be good, and that's all I got for you. So, see you next time. All right, bye now.